stop. So it's part about capturing the life. Anyway, you definitely made a better choice than me.
That's it.
Who let the Israelites go back to their land and even gave them money to rebuild their temple. Maybe now is finally time for that eternal.
That one over there, or right here, 5 or something.
Mm-hmm. I know. So I'm in San Antonio right now, and I'm visiting a quarry, and this is probably gonna be my last work trip for a while. Yeah, and I was just like thinking how I feel like I've done so much traveling because of work for the past couple of years. You know, all these like conferences and investor days and like random like tours and management meetings and stuff like that. And it's like, there's a lot of like traveling involved, you know? And then, yeah, so I'm in this like 3-year program, and my time is like roughly up. And then I think I'm gonna go to business school afterwards. And I feel like it's kind of like an end of like an era, you know what I mean? It's just like I feel like so much of my life in the past couple of years was defined by like travel and like studying and like working and more studying, and but now I'm about to embark like an era where I don't study that much. It's more focused on doing stuff, networking, trying to build something unique and meaningful in this world. That is like what I'm going to focus on in the future. And I was just like thinking, like, all this like traveling for work, right? I feel like it was like super glamorous at first. I really enjoyed like flying to places and like staying at hotels, and you know, it just like felt cool. You know, I felt like really at peace and at home on an airplane and in random hotels. But now I don't know if it's because of age or because I've been doing this for a while, but like I'm kind of just tired. I don't really enjoy traveling that much anymore, at least for work. It's just like so exhausting, and it's like, what the fuck am I gonna do in a hotel, right? There's like nothing to do here. And yeah, it's just like really tiring, and it like kind of like traveling, I feel like it just messes with your sleep cycle a lot, and then it takes time to like get back into it, and it's just like it's like a lot, right? And I feel like part of that is just like kind of my youth disappearing almost. I feel like when you're young, you're able to like travel a lot and not feel much from it. Like it's not like taxing on your body, but like when you become an adult, I feel like it's really taxing. Like I feel like when you move across time zones, maybe it's just like me particularly and like my fragility, but I feel that every time I move across time zones, my body just feels it a lot. And so the fact that this is my last trip planned for a really long time, for work, it's like, it's kind of like, it kind of brings me peace, you know? Like, I went to New York in May, to this conference I go to every year, and I went there like every year for like 3 years basically, and that felt kind of bittersweet because it was just like a recurring and kind of big part of my life that I have a lot of good memories from, and now I feel like this is the last trip I'll do for work for a really long time, and then I'll go to business school, and who knows what I'll do after, right? And it's kind of like crazy, you know? It's like, on one hand, it's like, oh yeah, I'll probably like miss all these like random business trips I do, but on the other hand, like I think some peace and like some stability would be warranted, and I don't really know if I want a job that's full of travel. I think it's like okay when you're young, but like when you get older, like I think the traveling gets pretty old really quick. And if you told me that a couple of years ago, I would have been like, no, that's crazy, like there's no way, right? Like I feel like when you're young, you have like so much energy. And that's not to say that I'm not young anymore, like objectively, like yeah, like I'm in my mid-late 20s, like I'm not old, but it kind of feels a lot different now than it did like even just like a couple of years ago. I feel like when you're young, you just have like so much energy to give to everything. And I feel like when people idealize youth, like that is what they're talking about. The fact that you have a lot of energy and you have like a limitless like pain tolerance to do shit like take red-eye flights and like pull all-nighters, and like these are things that become significantly harder to do as you grow older. And yeah, like I haven't taken a red-eye flight in a while. Actually, no, I just took it last year. But I don't really enjoy them. Not that I enjoyed them in the past, but they were more tolerable in the past. Now they're just like very painful. And so I think like having a career where you kind of just like sit around and like don't have to travel much, it's not the worst thing in the world. Whereas like I feel like when I graduated college, like what I wanted to do right away was to travel as much as possible for work. And I was able to do that. I think I picked the right industry to do that, and I did. But yeah, just being in like hotel rooms a lot and being very accountable to perform very highly, even though you're just exhausted, is just like, it's kind of rough. And I think some time in which like you don't travel that much, it's like would be kind of nice, you know. And so that's kind of like where I am right now. I don't really know what's gonna happen next in my life. I have like plans, obviously, but like honestly, whenever I make plans, it usually doesn't like pan out exactly like how I think it would. And that's, I mean, to be fair, that's exactly what you would expect, right? It's very hard to predict the future, even just like a couple of years, even just like a couple of months in advance. Like I've changed my mind so much over the past couple of months on like what I wanted to do in the future. And I was just like thinking about like what are we doing here on this earth? You know what I mean? Like I feel like if you're born in America, right, you just like, it's like winning the lottery, like truly. It's just like there's just so much opportunity here. You can create so much value here. And I'm just like, yeah, I've been like so blessed to be born in America. And it's like, what do I want to spend the rest of my life on, you know? Like, I think I've already been pretty clear that I don't really value consumption that highly. Like, I don't think the point of life is to buy shit or have experiences. Like, I think that's like a component of it, but it shouldn't be like one or two and like the list of things that you want to do, you know? And I feel like a lot of people that I grew up with, who I went to school with, and who were really similar to me, like, you know, a couple of years ago. Like, I feel like when you live in places like New York, and when you're surrounded by a lot of people who are also focused on consuming, like, I feel like New York as a place is really focused on consuming, whereas like San Francisco is a place really focused on building. And yeah, so like when you're in like a city that focuses on consuming and everyone around you is focused on consuming, it's very easy to believe that that is the point of life, just to consume a lot, consume more than other people. It doesn't have to be like even comparing, it's just like optimizing your life to consume as much as possible and like work as little as possible. Like I feel like that's what New York represents in a lot of ways, right? And I feel like I have been influenced more by the SF school of thought, which is just like, SF is not a city in which you consume, you know, like everyone wears like the same outfits from like Patagonia and yeah, you have like one jacket you wear every single day, and all the bars are closed at like 10, so you can't really you can't like go out in like the traditional sense you would in like New York. And so like people are really focused on like building things here, like, and like they do it for all sorts of reasons, but I feel like people think about their contributions to the world, what kind of impact they want to leave behind a lot more. And that's something that has really affected me, you know, like as someone who's now like bi-coastal, right? Like I feel like I'm a lot more affected by the SF and like West Coast way of understanding what is like the point of life, right? And I'm just like, okay, so to tie it all back, it's just like I was born, you know, in America. I've been really, really lucky to have been born in America, and a lot of the success I've been able to achieve was made possible by the fact that I exist in a society in which hard work is valued, in which there's a lot of opportunity. And that's not something you can say like for a lot of places in the world, you know? And so I'm just like thinking like what is it that I want to build for the world? You know, like, it's like my parents are like immigrants, right? And I feel like as immigrants, you have like a very deep like scarcity mindset, and it makes a lot of sense because like, you know, like they came over with like a couple $100 in their pockets, and then they built a life and had me, and obviously and everything from it, right? So it's just like, and at any point, like maybe they didn't get their green card or something, and then they would have gotten like deported, and it's like, okay, so like I get like why like a scarcity mindset makes a lot of sense if you're like a first generation immigrant, right? But for me, like I'm second generation now, and it's like, okay, like I don't like the outcomes of my life, like I worked like pretty hard, I had like a lot of good opportunities, so like I went to the right schools, I got the right jobs, like the range of outcomes in my life is like, there aren't that many like bad outcomes that exist anymore, you know? I'm just trying to be like really honest with myself. And so I'm just like thinking, like, if like the worst things could get is just like I move back in with my parents, and like I always like play this exercise because I tend to catastrophize a lot, right? But like the worst thing that can happen to me is that I'd move back in with my parents. It takes me a couple months to get my feet back together, and then I just like move out and like find more work, right? Yeah, and that's like different from my parents, where like if they lost their job, they would have like been deported, and like, you know, like and you know, like food was an actual issue for them, and it's like yeah, like yeah, and I'm just thinking, okay, so these are things that they had to worry about that I don't have to worry about, and it's like and the range of outcomes in my life were just like far superior to theirs because I was just born in the right country, you know? I was born in a place where there's a lot of opportunity, and in which hard work and freedom are really valued. And it's like like what now? You know what I mean? It's like, because I feel like I've been so focused on safety for a really long time, you know, because like I inherited a lot of like the scarcity minded like immigrant mindset, right? It's just like my parents were really frugal and like on all that, and so they passed that on to me. And I feel like throughout my life, I was just like focusing on like minimizing risk, right? Getting like the best grades possible, getting the best test scores possible, like the best extracurricular achievements, the best recommendations, getting into a good college, right? And then getting good grades there, and like doing extracurriculars there, building my network, and then I found like a good job after college, right? And it's just like, and then like I paid all of my like the college expenses, and now it's like, okay, now what? You know, like I have like a saving now, and it's like, you know, like I feel like for the first time in my life, like the function isn't to minimize risk as much as possible anymore, whereas it was before. Like at a certain point, like the entirety of like finance is predicated on the idea that you can't have outsized returns without taking on risk, right? Anything above the risk-free rate requires you to take on risk to get that return. And I feel like the risk you seek on is dependent on like basically like what collateral you have, right? Like what's like the worst case outcome in this, and so like yeah, like I have some savings, and so like I'm like ready to take on risk, right? But then I feel like I inherited this mindset where it's just like you should try to minimize as much risk as possible, and I'm trying to like slowly shed that because I realized like, okay, like if you want to make like a true impact on this world, you need to take risk, right? Like there's two ways to make an impact on the world. You either like get a PhD, become a professor, and like roll out some like groundbreaking research, right? And then maybe later on someone picks it up, because that's what like computers are, right? Like that's like all the algorithms are just like stuff professors like wrote in their PhD theses like 40 years ago, and then all of a sudden we invented like transistors, and like they've gotten a lot better, and now we have all these like fancy algorithms because a bunch of like computer science like PhDs wrote about it in the past, right? So that's like one way. And then two is just like you can try to like build a company. Like I feel like in life there's just a lot of like people always wonder like what's like the next thing. You know what I mean? Like in high school, the next thing was like college, like getting into the best college possible. And then once you're in college, like the next thing is like getting into like you know, like getting into like a consulting or an investment banking program, right? And then you kind of like try to like prestige max every single step of the journey. And then if you get into like finance, right, then they built like investment banking, like the titles are very defined, like you have like analyst, associate, VP, director, MD, right? Or you can like go down like the private equity path after your analyst program, and then there's like associate, business school, like VP, etc., right? And it's like there are like a bunch of pipelines that exist to push you to more accreditations. You know what I mean? Like there's always just pipelines that minimize the amount of risk you're facing in your life and just like slowly push you upwards again and again. And I feel like it's like an escalator, you know what I mean? Like once you get on one escalator, you need to get on another escalator, and then once you get to the top of that escalator, there's another escalator for you to get on. But like at a certain point in life, I feel like the point, if you really want to make an impact, you gotta like get off the escalator, you know what I mean? You gotta like carve your own path, because joining a pipeline, like there's nothing wrong with it, but it's not like a incredibly impactful range of outcomes, you know what I mean? It's just like you are building someone else's dreams, right? It's just like that's like what these career pipelines entail. And organizations also have to like fight inertia and entropy, and when you're working for a large organization like that, like there's not that much impact you can make. You know, there's like a limited amount of impact you can make. And so I feel like at this point in my life, I'm kind of ready to get off the escalators. Like I also went to like, oh yeah, I did an associate program, and now I'm an analyst, and it's just like and like if I stayed here, I could be like a senior analyst, and in like a couple of years I could be like a portfolio manager and whatever. And it's just like like that is a path, you know, but it's like, and it's a path to like a good life, you know, like it's a path to like, you know, pretty comfortable living, and then I can send my kids like private school or whatever, and that's like nice, but like it's not the path to like truly like monumental impact on this world. And I always like revisit the idea, like if you want to make like a monumental impact on this world, you have to start a company. Or like the PhD path is like already like too late for me. It's just like my grades were like good, but they weren't like straight A's in college, you know, and that's kind of what like these top PhD programs demand. So yeah, so like if you want to make an outsized impact, you got to like start a company, and then because for me it's just like I kind of like owe it to like everyone, you know what I mean? Like we exist on top of like this path that was built by generations of humans before us, you know? Like I don't know how an iPhone works, but I use it every day for whatever reason, and that's like built on the back of like all the designers and engineers who made it, right? And like, and then that was built on top of like, you know, like innovations in the transistor, like the invention of the transistor, like by like Shockley and then Fairchild like 7 or whatever, and then they also are dependent on like the optical like telecommunications network that was built like a century before. And it's like there's just so much building that happens, you know, and it's like we take it so much for granted because we kind of just expect technology to grow, right? And like iPhones or just like smartphones in general have made such a big impact on extending human consciousness, you know. It allows us to process more information, to store it, to catalog it, to search it. It just makes us more sentient, you know. And that is a truly impactful thing in this world, you know. And like all technology is, it's not just like iPhone, it's just like TVs and like microwaves, refrigerators, hot water, plumbing. These are all things that extend human consciousness, right? And I feel like as someone who's like born in America, right, it's like you have like, and someone who like lives in San Francisco, it's like we are so close to like the origin of like consciousness extension in the world, you know. Like the internet was invented in, you know, Silicon Valley, the transistor was, all these like mobile phones were like, and now like with AI, it's just like everything, all these technologies are just like consciousness extenders. And it doesn't have to be like hardware either, or it doesn't, it's just like there's so many like random things that exist that make our lives easier that we don't even know about, you know. Like I was looking into like security software and the transition from like firewalls to SASE, and then all the products that are built around it. And it's just like these are just like if you didn't cover like software, like no one would know about this, you know what I mean, unless you were like the IT officer or like CTO of your company, you know. Like no one knows what SASE is, you know, and like why it's important. And like no one knows about firewalls and like what that, like I don't even know what firewalls replaced anymore. Like it's just like the obsolescence of technology just fades like into like the void, you know. But at a certain point, firewalls were considered to be like really innovative technologies as well. Like it's literal, like you're literally separating your network with like physical walls. It's crazy. Yeah, and it's like all these technologies that exist around us, like we don't know how they work, but they were built by other people, you know, and how much are these things worth, you know? And it's like, I feel like it in America, like we have like the opportunity to push forward the frontier of technology, right? And if not as an engineer, there are also like non-technical roles as well. Like you can be a product manager, you can be like a salesperson. Like there are so many ways to advance technology. Or you can, like, if you have some sort of like niche expertise, you can also try building a company around it, right? And I feel like with like AI, you're able to learn things very quickly, build a niche knowledge base very quickly, learn the adjacent parts of running a company, like the compliance and the marketing and all that, like very quickly. We just live in really interesting times, and I feel like it's kind of a shame if we didn't try to push the frontiers of technology if we're able to, you know? It's just like, I've noticed for me, like, I think my life is going to be comfortable regardless. Like, I've reached the range of outcomes in my life because of all of my choices before this that make it so that my life is going to be okay, you know, from here. And so what's left is like understanding, like, what do I want to do with my life? And I can take the New York path and try to consume as much as possible. Like just buy the best clothes, the best cars, and like go to the most exclusive parties and all of that. It's just like, that's like one option. Or I can try to like build something, right? Something meaningful, something that like pushes the frontiers of technology and extending human consciousness. And that's kind of like the SF path. And I feel like I'm really inspired by San Francisco and the West Coast. And I think that's like kind of what I want to do, you know? I just don't know exactly what yet, but it's going to be a journey. Like I want to contribute to pushing and building on top of everything our species has built. And I don't know how to do it, but I want to do it, you know?
Water there. Oh, so the blast. And so it's happening across the lake. And then it's like, you know, you're like waiting 30, 45 seconds.
Fully utilizing based on the specifications of the and we're running 100-ton haul trucks, 777, 785s per truck.
100 tons is pretty good size for us, right?
Yeah, that takes to get to the dump hopper, the primary. All that stuff's monitored on a daily basis. So that's how we size our equipment for the most part. When you use AgFlow, like you were talking about,